In the early 1980 seconds, the world of pop music was changing rapidly. Two names stood out, dominating the airwaves and captivating audiences around the globe: Michael Jackson and Prince. Both were talented beyond measure, each bringing a unique style and energy to their music. However, while they both had legions of fans and critical acclaim, their approach to music and fame couldn't have been more different. This clash of personalities and artistry would eventually lead to one of the most famous, albeit brief, rivalries in music history. It all started in 1983, when Michael Jackson, already a global sensation, extended an invitation to Prince, who had just released his breakthrough album, 1999, and was quickly becoming a superstar in his own right. Michael, known for his impeccable dance moves, massive hits like Billie Jean, and his groundbreaking Thriller album, was eager to collaborate with Prince. He admired Prince's unique blend of funk, rock, and pop, as well as his ability to play multiple instruments and create his own sound. To Michael, a collaboration with Prince would be the ultimate fusion of talent. The two legends were in the prime of their careers, and a partnership between them seemed like it could be a musical match made in heaven. Michael had always been one to think big. He wasn't just a singer or dancer, he was an innovator, someone who wanted to change the music landscape. After the release of Thriller, he became more than just a pop star. He was a cultural icon, with his every move being watched and analyzed. Prince, on the other hand, was more of an enigma. He was mysterious, known for his defiant individuality and unwillingness to follow trends. While Michael was the definition of mainstream success, Prince had always carved his own path, gaining fame for his bold fashion choices, controversial lyrics, and groundbreaking performances. His ability to play multiple instruments and produce his own music made him one of the most respected musicians of the era. Despite their obvious differences, Michael believed that a collaboration could lead to something extraordinary. Prince, however, wasn't so sure. While the idea of working with Michael was tempting, he wasn't particularly interested in joining forces with someone who was already so established. Prince had always valued his independence above everything else. He wasn't keen on fitting into the expectations of the mainstream music industry, and he certainly didn't want to be overshadowed by Michael's massive persona. The invitation from Michael was for them to work together on a song. But as the two men met, it became clear that their personalities clashed. Michael was focused on the idea of making hits, and he was always looking for ways to expand his global reach. For him, a collaboration meant pushing boundaries, blending different musical styles, and creating something that could speak to millions of people worldwide. On the other hand, Prince was deeply focused on his artistic vision. He was a perfectionist who didn't just want to create music for the sake of creating music. He wanted to control every aspect of the process. He wasn't interested in conforming to anyone's expectations, not even Michael Jackson's. During their time together in the studio, it became evident that their approaches to music were vastly different. Michael was keen on creating something commercial, something that would appeal to his vast audience. Prince, however, didn't like to compromise. He wanted creative freedom, and the idea of working with someone who had a highly polished, structured approach didn't sit well with him. Their differences weren't just artistic, they were personal. Michael's warmth and desire to collaborate were met with Prince's cool, distant demeanor. Prince, who had always thrived on doing things his way, didn't like the idea of fitting into Michael's carefully planned world. It was a clash of egos, of visions, and of personalities. At one point, Michael suggested that Prince contribute to the track "Bad," which was one of the lead singles from his upcoming album. Michael envisioned Prince adding his unique flair to the song, maybe playing guitar or singing a backing vocal. However, when the offer came, it was clear that Prince wasn't interested in being a supporting player. Michael's vision was for him to be a secondary voice on the track, but Prince wasn't someone who could simply be a sidekick. He declined the offer, which only deepened the rift between them. The tension that followed wasn't just about music. It was about respect and recognition. Michael, who had spent years cultivating a perfect public image, was used to being in control of every aspect of his career. He wasn't used to being turned down, especially not by another artist of Prince's stature. Prince, on the other hand, had built his career on doing things his own way. He had spent years defying the expectations of the music industry, and the idea of collaborating with someone as mainstream as Michael Jackson didn't sit well with him. To Prince, the idea of being part of something as polished and commercial as Michael's world seemed like a step backward in his pursuit of artistic freedom. As the weeks passed, rumors began to swirl. Fans and the media began to speculate about what had really happened between the two artists. Some believed that the rivalry was just a publicity stunt, a way for the two to get more attention. Others thought it was a genuine clash of egos, with each artist unable to agree on anything. Either way, the idea of the rivalry between Michael and Prince became a hot topic, and it was only a matter of time before the media began to spin their differences into a full-fledged battle. For Michael, the rivalry hurt. He had always admired Prince's talent and was excited about the possibility of working together. But for Prince, it wasn't personal. It was about maintaining control over his music and his image. He didn't want to be seen as a collaborator or a follower. He wanted to be the leader of his own musical revolution. At this point, the two artists had become symbols of two different approaches to stardom. Michael represented the polished, global pop superstar, the face of mainstream success. He was the artist who could sell out arenas, break records, and reach audiences from every corner of the world. Prince, on the other hand, was the definition of artistic integrity. He was the musician who valued his independence above all else, the one who defied conventions and did things on his terms. While Michael's music could speak to millions, Prince's music spoke to a smaller, but equally devoted, group of fans who admired his individuality and the way he carved out his own space in the music world. As the story of their rivalry began to take shape, it was clear that their differences were not just artistic, but also philosophical. Michael's world was one of control and perfection, while Prince's was one of raw emotion and boundless creativity. Both men were driven by a desire to change the world with their music, but they went about it in vastly different ways. One sought to be the king of pop, the other to remain the master of his own destiny. By the end of 1983, their rivalry was cemented, and the music world was left to wonder. What if Michael and Prince had actually worked together? Would their combined genius have changed the course of pop music forever, or would their differences have led to a creative explosion? Whatever the outcome, the brief 3-month period of rivalry between these two legends would go on to shape the future of music in ways no one could have predicted. As the weeks passed after their initial meeting, the rivalry between Michael Jackson and Prince intensified. What had begun as a simple disagreement over a collaboration soon escalated into a fierce creative battle that would echo throughout the music world. Both men, at the peak of their careers, became locked in a silent competition, each pushing their own musical boundaries, eager to show the world that they were the true king of the pop world. The turning point came when Michael Jackson released his highly anticipated album, Bad. By the time it was released in August 1987, Michael had already redefined the music industry with his previous albums, especially Thriller. Bad was his big follow-up, and it was meant to be more than just another album. It was meant to prove that Michael Jackson wasn't just a one-hit wonder, but a long-lasting force in the music world. It was his chance to solidify his place as the top performer of the era, and Michael knew the stakes were high. He poured his heart and soul into Bad, making sure every track was meticulously crafted to be a smash hit. Each song was designed to capture the global audience he had already built. However, what Michael didn't expect was how much Bad would push him into direct competition with Prince. While Michael was carefully following the formula of hit singles, innovative music videos, and big-budget promotions, Prince was continuing to take his own, more unconventional approach. Prince's music was often more experimental and personal, challenging the norms of popular music. He didn't rely on expensive marketing strategies. Instead, his focus was on the music itself, the raw emotion, and the deep, often provocative themes that ran through his songs. When Bad hit the shelves, it was a massive success. The album featured some of Michael's biggest hits, like Bad, The Way You Make Me Feel, and Man in the Mirror, all of which became instant classics. But as much as Bad solidified Michael's position as the king of pop, it also unknowingly pushed him into a head-to-head competition with Prince. For Michael, this battle wasn't about just being the top seller, it was about maintaining his dominance over the pop world. But Prince had something different in mind. The same year Bad was released, Prince followed up with an album that would prove to be one of his greatest masterpieces, Sign O' the Times. This album wasn't just another collection of songs. It was a deeply personal and innovative work that reflected everything Prince was about. Unlike Michael's approach, which was more about mass appeal, Sign O' the Times was an album that invited the listener into Prince's world. A world of complex rhythms, layered melodies, and lyrics that were both vulnerable and bold. Prince's album featured a mix of rock, funk, pop, and soul, showing off his ability to blend genres in a way that had never been done before. The songs were powerful, with social commentary on issues like drug addiction, relationships, and the state of the world. His lyrics were often thought-provoking and layered with meaning, while his music was energetic and captivating. The album was Prince at his most creative, fearless, unapologetic, and ahead of its time. Despite being a critical success, Sign O' the Times wasn't as commercially successful as Bad, but that didn't matter to Prince. For him, success was never about the numbers or the fame, it was about staying true to his artistic vision. His refusal to conform to industry standards made him even more beloved among his fans. To many, Sign O' the Times was the album that cemented Prince as one of the greatest artists of all time. While Michael was focused on maintaining his place in the mainstream, Prince was busy breaking down barriers and pushing his own boundaries in a way that left his audience in awe. But with the release of Bad, Michael had set the stage for a much-publicized battle. Fans and critics alike started to talk about the rivalry between the two stars. They wondered, who was truly the greatest artist of the era? Michael had the bigger sales, the chart-topping singles, and the worldwide recognition. But Prince had the raw talent, the unmatched versatility, and the refusal to bend to commercial expectations. The media and the public began to compare them relentlessly, often putting them at odds with each other. At the same time, both artists were pushing each other creatively, whether they liked it or not. Michael Jackson was known for his meticulously crafted songs, his stunning music videos, and his record-breaking performances. He had a specific vision for his music, a vision that was tightly controlled and always designed to reach the largest possible audience. Everything he did, whether it was his moonwalk, his iconic glove, or his elaborate music videos, was part of his carefully constructed image. Prince, on the other hand, was always much more mysterious. He didn't fit into the mold of what a pop star was expected to be. He played multiple instruments, wrote his own songs, and produced his music. His style was unique and unpredictable. He didn't need elaborate videos or flashy performances to make a statement. Instead, his performances were raw, emotional, and full of energy. He didn't care about the rules of the industry, he made his own. And that's why, despite being in direct competition with Michael, Prince's music continued to captivate his fans on a deeper, more personal level. As their rivalry grew, so did the myth around their musical competition. The tension between Michael and Prince wasn't just about who was the better artist. It became a larger cultural moment. Michael represented the accessible, mainstream artist, someone whose appeal crossed borders, ages, and cultures. Prince, on the other hand, was the icon of artistic integrity, the artist who didn't play by the rules and created music that was thought-provoking, challenging, and unconventional. While the media pushed the rivalry to the forefront, neither Michael nor Prince were outwardly antagonistic towards each other. They each continued to focus on their own work, creating music that would influence generations of artists to come. However, behind the scenes, the competition between them was very real. Michael wanted to prove that he could maintain his spot as the king of pop, while Prince was determined to show that his artistry was unmatched, even if it meant staying away from the spotlight. In the end, the rivalry between Michael Jackson and Prince wasn't just about a battle for dominance in the music industry, it was a fight for the future of pop music. It was a battle between commercial success and artistic integrity, between conformity and creativity. And in that brief but intense period, both artists managed to shape the music landscape in ways that no one could have imagined. Though they never publicly addressed their rivalry head-on, their music spoke volumes. Michael's Bad and Prince's Sign o' the Times were two of the most influential albums of the 1980 seconds, and their rivalry pushed each of them to new heights. Michael may have won in terms of commercial success, but Prince's legacy as a true artist remains untouchable. The tension between the two legends was a moment in time that the music world would never forget. It was a brief but intense chapter in the history of pop music, and it forever changed the way artists approach their craft. Michael and Prince, in their rivalry, helped shape the future of music, not by competing with each other, but by pushing each other to be better. As the summer of 1987 came to an end, both Michael Jackson and Prince were on their individual paths, each continuing to dominate their corner of the music world. Michael had solidified his place as the global king of pop with the release of his album Bad, which took the world by storm. He was everywhere on TV, in magazines, in concert venues, and his iconic music videos played on repeat across the globe. His every move, from his moonwalk to his signature white glove, became part of the cultural fabric. He was a household name, and his influence on the music industry was undeniable. Prince, however, wasn't concerned with mainstream success. He wasn't chasing the same kind of fame that Michael Jackson had achieved. Prince, with the release of Sign o' the Times, had shown that he was an artist driven by creativity rather than the pursuit of popularity. His album, which blended rock, funk, soul, and pop, was both a critical and artistic triumph. It was different from anything the world had heard before, and it was far from the polished, radio-friendly pop that Michael was known for. Prince wasn't interested in fitting into a box. He was unapologetically himself, creating music that was as much about feeling and authenticity as it was about sound. Despite their contrasting approaches to music, the two artists continued to fuel each other's creativity in different ways. Prince wasn't just about making hit songs. He wanted to craft entire worlds within his albums. Sign o' the Times wasn't just an album, it was an experience. With songs like You Got the Look, If I Was Your Girlfriend, and the haunting The Cross, Prince pushed his fans to think, to feel, and to connect with the deeper layers of his music. Each song told a story, and each story was laced with a message that was often larger than the music itself. On the other hand, Michael's Bad was designed to be a global statement. The album was about success on every level. The hits were catchy, the lyrics simple yet universal, and his music videos were cinematic masterpieces. The Bad album, which featured songs like Bad, The Way You Make Me Feel, and Smooth Criminal, was aimed at a wide audience, from teenagers to adults, from America to Asia, from pop fans to rock enthusiasts. Michael was shaping himself as a legend, making it clear that he wasn't just an artist, but an entertainer who could break records and shape popular culture. While Michael's approach was about refining pop music and crafting iconic hits, Prince's work was raw and fearless, often challenging what mainstream audiences were used to. As Bad dominated the charts, Prince, ever the outsider, maintained a sense of mystery. His personal life, his views on fame, and his refusal to conform made him both fascinating and elusive. His decision to continue creating complex, innovative music was a direct challenge to the cookie-cutter world of pop music that Michael represented. For Michael, the success of Bad was a critical moment. He had to prove that he wasn't just a one-hit wonder. After the phenomenal success of Thriller, he needed to show the world that his reign as the king of pop was not just a flash in the pan. And Bad did just that. The album spawned 5 hit singles, and the music videos became iconic. The Bad World Tour was a spectacle, with Michael's legendary dance moves and high-energy performances captivating audiences worldwide. Michael Jackson wasn't just a singer anymore, he was a living, breathing spectacle, and his concerts were nothing short of magical. But Prince wasn't playing for the same kind of fame. While Michael filled arenas with his fans, Prince played smaller, more intimate venues, where his performances felt raw and electric. His stage presence was magnetic, his talent undeniable, and his ability to blend genres and styles was something that only a few artists could truly match. Where Michael's concerts were large-scale productions, Prince's performances felt like a secret, a personal invitation into his world. The way Prince approached the music industry was also very different from Michael's. He was fiercely independent, not willing to bend to the commercial pressures that others in the industry faced. Prince had always been known for his control over his music, his image, and his career. He produced most of his music, played most of the instruments, and wrote his own songs. He didn't need a big team or flashy visuals to make his mark, he did it all on his own terms. This approach, though it sometimes left him at odds with record labels and the media, allowed him to remain an artist who was respected not just for his hits, but for his deep connection to the music he created. Michael, meanwhile, understood the power of the media and its role in building his career. He embraced the idea of being a global superstar, knowing that with great fame came the ability to influence millions of people. He made sure that every public appearance, every music video, every concert was meticulously crafted to further cement his position as a global icon. His strategy was simple but effective: reach as many people as possible and create music that would last for generations. As the years went on, their rivalry took on a new life. The media continued to pit Michael and Prince against each other, but the two never publicly acknowledged any tension. They each continued their careers in parallel, with Michael striving to maintain his dominance in pop music, while Prince created music that challenged the boundaries of what popular music could be. In 1988, after the release of Bad and Sign O' the Times, both artists found themselves at a crossroads. Michael had already reached the peak of his commercial success, and now his focus shifted toward making music that could keep him at the top of the charts. His next album, Dangerous 1991, would continue the legacy of his previous works, blending pop, rock, and R&B in new and exciting ways. For Prince, Sign O' the Times had been a triumph, but it didn't achieve the same commercial success that Bad had. Yet, Sign O' the Times was a work of art, something that critics and fans still regard as one of his best pieces of music. By the early 1992s, it was clear that Michael and Prince had charted different paths. Michael's world was becoming more and more about spectacle. He was becoming the pop god, someone whose influence on culture was undeniable. Prince, on the other hand, remained the elusive, mysterious artist who made music for those who truly appreciated it. Though he had a huge fan base, his work wasn't about reaching the masses, it was about speaking to those who were willing to listen closely. Despite their differences, the rivalry between Michael and Prince was a defining moment in the music industry. Their contrasting approaches to fame, music, and artistry shaped the way pop stars were understood in the years that followed. Michael Jackson was the ultimate entertainer, and Prince was the uncompromising artist. Their music represented two sides of the same coin, each pushing the other to be better, to evolve, and to redefine what it meant to be a pop star. In their rivalry, the music industry saw the power of competition. Michael's commercial success and Prince's artistic integrity were two sides of the same musical revolution. And both men would leave legacies that would influence generations of musicians, performers, and artists for decades to come. As the 1,980 seconds came to a close, the rivalry between Michael Jackson and Prince began to evolve into something greater than just a competition between two musicians. It had transformed into a cultural moment that spoke to the very heart of what it meant to be an artist in the fast-paced, ever-changing music industry. Both men had carved out their own niches in the world of music, each representing something different but equally powerful. Michael, the king of pop, had become the epitome of commercial success and global influence. Prince, on the other hand, stood as a symbol of artistic integrity, independence, and the desire to constantly innovate. By the late 1,980 seconds, the world had already seen the peak of Michael Jackson's fame. He had become more than just a pop star. He was an international icon. His music videos were legendary, and his concerts were a spectacle that drew millions of fans. Michael's ability to blend catchy hooks, groundbreaking visuals, and heart-pounding dance moves had taken the music industry to new heights. His album Bad, released in 1987, was another massive success, and its worldwide popularity made him an even bigger star. Yet, even as Michael Jackson reached new milestones in his career, he was aware of the pressure to stay relevant in an industry that was constantly shifting. The next step for Michael wasn't just about making hit songs, it was about ensuring that he remained at the top of the musical world. Prince, in contrast, was never interested in fame in the same way that Michael was. While Michael's career was built on massive global success and appealing to a wide audience, Prince's artistry was about maintaining creative freedom and pushing boundaries. He was constantly evolving, never satisfied with sticking to one sound or style for too long. Sign O. The times had proven that Prince could produce music that was both complex and innovative. The album had taken listeners on a journey through different genres: funk, rock, pop, and soul, all while carrying personal and socially conscious messages. However, despite the critical acclaim that Sign O the Times received, it didn't achieve the same commercial success as Michael's Bad. But for Prince, that didn't matter. He wasn't in it for the numbers or the recognition. His goal was always to create something new, something that spoke to the depth of his own musical soul. As the years passed, the music industry continued to change, and both Michael and Prince found themselves in a position where they had to navigate the shifting landscape. Michael Jackson was a global superstar, and with that status came a constant need to maintain relevance. He had become the face of pop music. But how long could he stay there? The 1,990 seconds brought new trends and new stars. The rise of hip-hop, grunge, and alternative rock presented a challenge to Michael's dominance. However, he was never one to back down from a challenge. Michael's next album, Dangerous 1991, was his response to the changing musical environment. It was a bold step in a new direction, blending pop, R&B, rock, and even elements of hip-hop. The album was a reflection of Michael's adaptability, his ability to evolve with the times while still maintaining his signature style. Dangerous was a success, but it was clear that Michael's approach was different from Prince's. While Michael embraced the commercial side of the music industry and worked hard to ensure that his music appealed to the widest audience possible, Prince was continuing to create music on his own terms. His next few albums, including Diamonds and Pearls, 1991, and The Gold Experience, 1995, continued to showcase his musical genius, but they also reflected his growing frustration with the music industry. Prince was never one to shy away from controversy, and by the mid-1990 seconds, he had begun to openly challenge the system that had made him famous. He even changed his name to an unpronounceable symbol, signaling his desire to break free from the traditional constraints of the music business. For Prince, it was never about being the most popular artist in the world. It was about being true to his art, even if it meant alienating his commercial audience. Meanwhile, Michael Jackson's public persona began to change as well. The pressure of being a global icon, the constant scrutiny from the media, and the demands of his career took a toll on him. Michael's personal life began to attract as much attention as his music. He became a figure of fascination, with tabloids and gossip magazines regularly covering his every move. While Prince remained somewhat of an enigma, only revealing parts of his personal life on his own terms, Michael's life had become a public spectacle. His relationships, his appearance, and even his health were under constant scrutiny. Despite this, Michael continued to produce music that resonated with his audience, even as his personal struggles became more visible. The two men continued their careers on parallel tracks, each with a devoted fan base and each pushing the boundaries of music in their own way. Michael's music became more socially conscious, with songs like Black or White, 1991, and They Don't Care About Us, 1996, while Prince's music took on an increasingly spiritual and introspective tone. Both artists were influential in their own right, but as time went on, it became clear that their paths would never truly cross in the way that fans and the media had hoped. The rivalry between Michael and Prince, which had seemed so intense in the 1980 seconds, eventually faded into the background as both artists focused on their individual journeys. Despite the tension that had existed between them, the legacy of their rivalry left an indelible mark on the music industry. Michael Jackson's success showed the world what could happen when an artist reached for the stars, blending entertainment, music, and fashion in ways that had never been done before. His influence could be seen in the artists who followed in his footsteps, from pop stars like Usher and Justin Timberlake to rock artists like U2 and Queen. Michael's ability to blend different genres and create an international appeal changed the way artists thought about music and performance. Prince, on the other hand, showed the world the power of authenticity. His refusal to conform to the expectations of the music industry made him an icon for anyone who valued artistic freedom. Prince's influence could be seen in the artists who followed him, from Beyoncé and Rihanna to Lady Gaga and Kendrick Lamar. His ability to blend genres, push boundaries, and express himself freely gave future generations of musicians the courage to be different, to embrace their uniqueness, and to reject the limitations that the industry sometimes imposes. Though their rivalry had been intense, the mutual respect between Michael and Prince was evident in their work. Both men were deeply aware of the other's talent, and each pushed the other to be better. In some ways, their competition shaped the future of pop music. The very fact that two such different artists, one focused on mainstream success and the other on artistic innovation, could thrive in the same era, was a testament to the diversity and creativity of the music world. In the end, Michael Jackson and Prince both became legends in their own right. Their careers, their music, and their influence on the world of pop and beyond cannot be overstated. They were not just musicians, they were pioneers, icons who redefined what it meant to be a star in the modern world. Their rivalry, though brief, helped shape the musical landscape of the 1980 seconds and 1990 seconds, and their legacies continue to inspire and influence artists today. As the years passed, Michael Jackson and Prince continued their respective journeys in the music industry, though their rivalry slowly faded into the background. By the 1990 seconds and beyond, both had moved on from the public clash that had once defined the music scene. Yet, the legacy of their brief but intense rivalry remained a crucial moment in the history of music. The influence of both artists continued to shape the future of pop, rock, R&B, and countless other genres, even as their personal paths diverged. Michael Jackson, having solidified his place as the king of pop, continued to capture the world's attention with his groundbreaking work. Despite the pressures that came with being an international superstar, he remained dedicated to his craft. His album Dangerous, released in 1991, showcased his ability to evolve and adapt to new trends in music, particularly with the integration of hip-hop influences into his pop sound. The album's lead single, Black or White, became a global anthem about racial unity and equality, which was in line with Michael's broader message of peace and love. Michael's music had always been about connecting with people from all walks of life, and songs like Black or White only reinforced his ability to communicate messages of inclusivity and social change. Throughout the 1,990 seconds, Michael continued to dominate the pop world, but his personal life began to attract as much attention as his music. The media had a constant eye on his every move, whether it was his changing appearance or his relationships. Michael's personal struggles became a spectacle, often overshadowing his artistic achievements. Yet despite all the noise around him, his music continued to speak for itself. He released His Story in 1995, an album that reflected on his career and personal challenges, blending new songs with a retrospective look at his greatest hits. The album was a massive commercial success and reaffirmed Michael's position as one of the most influential artists in the world. But the pressure of fame was relentless, and Michael's journey was increasingly marked by his desire for privacy and his struggles with the public's obsession with his life. On the other hand, Prince remained the elusive artist, constantly reinventing himself and his sound. While Michael's path had become more focused on large-scale pop spectacles and social messaging, Prince's music was deeply personal and experimental. He continued to release albums that were as much about self-expression as they were about entertainment. In the 1,990 seconds, he embraced new technology, releasing music online and through unconventional channels. Prince's artistic freedom was at the forefront of his career, and his refusal to bow to the pressures of the music industry became even more pronounced. He changed his name to an unpronounceable symbol, known as the love symbol, in protest against the control his record label had over his career. This move symbolized Prince's rebellion against the corporate side of the industry, further establishing his reputation as a true artistic force who would never compromise his vision. Though their rivalry had faded over the years, the two artists had undoubtedly influenced each other in ways that would leave a lasting impact on their work. Michael Jackson's polished, mainstream approach to music, his focus on innovation and performance, and his ability to connect with audiences worldwide helped shape the very nature of pop stardom. His legacy of dance, visual storytelling, and ability to break cultural barriers continued to inspire a new generation of musicians, from Usher and Justin Timberlake to Beyoncé, and even hip-hop artists like Jay-Z and Kanye West. Prince's influence, however, was just as profound, though it resonated in a different way. Prince was about freedom. Freedom to explore different musical genres, freedom to write and produce his own music, and freedom to express his individuality without concern for what the mainstream expected of him. His ability to create a personal, artistic statement through his work set a blueprint for musicians like Lady Gaga, Kendrick Lamar, and even artists in the indie and alternative music scenes. Prince showed that true artistry wasn't about pleasing the masses, but about staying true to oneself and creating something that was deeply authentic. As both men continued to evolve, the impact of their rivalry continued to be felt. It wasn't just about their differences. It was about how their competition pushed each of them to new heights. The brief but explosive clash between Michael and Prince forced both of them to dig deeper, to challenge themselves, and to produce music that would change the world. Even though they took different paths, Michael pursuing international fame and commercial success, while Prince chased artistic independence, they both understood the importance of innovation in music. In the 2000s, both artists experienced a period of reflection. Michael Jackson's career took another hit after the controversial trials in the mid-2000s, which led to his decision to step away from the limelight for several years. His music, however, remained iconic, and his influence could still be seen in the work of many artists across different genres. In 2009, Michael Jackson tragically passed away, leaving behind a legacy that had completely transformed the landscape of popular music. His influence on the music industry, from his innovation in dance to his social consciousness in his lyrics, is still felt to this day. Prince, too, faced challenges in the later years of his career. He continued to produce music and tour, but the changing dynamics of the music industry, especially the rise of digital music and streaming, made it difficult for him to maintain the level of control he once had. However, even as the music industry evolved around him, Prince never compromised his vision. He continued to create, perform, and innovate until his sudden passing in 2016. Much like Michael, Prince's legacy endures. His music and his message of artistic independence have inspired generations of musicians who value creativity and self-expression over commercial success. Looking back, the rivalry between Michael Jackson and Prince may have been short-lived, but it had an undeniable impact on the music industry. It wasn't just a clash of two superstars. It was a reflection of two different philosophies of what it meant to be an artist. Michael Jackson embodied the idea of the perfect pop star, using his talent to bring people together through music, performance, and spectacle. Prince, on the other hand, embodied the idea of the artist as an individual, someone who would never be controlled by the expectations of the industry or the public. Both approaches had their merits, and both left an indelible mark on the world of music. In the end, their rivalry was not about who was better. It was about the immense respect they had for each other's talents and how each artist pushed the other to strive for greatness. Michael and Prince were two sides of the same coin. One represented the power of mass appeal and global reach, while the other represented the power of authenticity and creative freedom. Their rivalry, though intense, only served to push the boundaries of what was possible in music. Today, as we look back on the legacy of these two icons, we realize that their influence is still with us. Michael Jackson and Prince were not just musicians, they were revolutionaries, and their music continues to inspire and challenge artists around the world. The impact of their rivalry may have faded, but the lessons they taught us about pushing boundaries, about being true to ourselves, and about the power of music to bring people together will never be forgotten.